welcome back. So last time I was about to replace that capacitor, but I didn't have a replacement. I went to a couple of local shops, which are very limited, just to mention that, and I got these. These were supposed to be 100 picofarad capacitors, and the closest to 100 was probably this one. That's 70. So, yep, no good. Well, I ended up ordering online, and I ordered a batch of 300 capacitors because they cost almost nothing. So most sellers prefer to sell bigger batches, and I got a batch from something like 10 picofarads. Let me just check to make sure I'm not speaking balonies. Not that it matters, but for the sake of the argument. Okay, so 300 pieces ranging from 2 picofarads up to 100 nanofarads. Now the problem is the values are like standard, so there are big gaps in between certain values, and unfortunately one of those big gaps is right in the range of the old capacitor. So you have, actually I have 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 22, 30, 33, 47, 68, 75, 82 and 100 picofarads. These are the values in this interval from 2 to 100, so super close together. And then from 100 to 221 there's only 151 in between. So I have 100 picofarads, 151, 221, 331, 471, and then 1 nanofarad, and so on. That is irrelevant in my case. Since the old one measured 500 something, right? And I divided that by 4 and I got a 125 value, and I decided to go for 100. That 100 is okay. So I think this is the one. It says 151 on it. I have no idea what the coding is. So 151 doesn't mean 151 picofarads apparently. It might mean that it's just a code. But this one said 97 picofarads. When I measured it earlier it was 101, 98, so roughly 100. Okay. My plan is to get this inside, and then I will need to test the camera and see if I need to adjust or not. And obviously I will need to tag all these bags because they all look the same except for the little markings. This one says 681. So I need to rearrange these so I can find them as easy as possible. In case this value is incorrect, I will need to adjust the value probably by grouping different values, which is not going to be easy because the space is limited. Now, grouping, what does that mean? Well, if the capacitor works in reverse from this point of view from a resistor. So if you have two resistors and you connect them in series, you'll get a bigger resistance, right? Because they will all work together to oppose the flow of the current. If you place them in parallel, then you will reduce so the total resistance value will be lower the um, than the greatest of the two, right? I'm not wrong, right? Okay, well, in the case of the capacitor, it's different. It's the other way around. So if you place them in parallel, you will get more capacitance. If you place them in series, you will get less capacitance. Now, since the initial value was 500 and something, and now I'm going for 100 or 100 and something picofarads, that obviously means that lowering the capacitance of this component will shorten the exposure, because obviously the camera was meant to shoot SX-70 film, which is 100 and something ISO, 160 or something. And my goal is to convert it to 600, which is 600 ISO. So basically, I need a smaller capacitor to give me a shorter shutter speed. So if the camera overexposes, it means I need a smaller value, and right, if it overexposes, I need a smaller value. If that is the case, I'm in luck, because I've got all those smaller values smaller than 100. If the camera underexposes, I have two options. Leave it as it is and compensate from the exposure compensation dial, which is not the most correct way to do it, or increase the value. Now, in order to increase the value, I need to put them in series. And that's a problem, because I don't really have the space for that. I would need to actually place them on this side of the board, where I can like overlap them on the board. I can't really place them on the inside. Oh, actually I can. There is a bit of space here. So if I lift the board, there is a cutout here, and it's pretty decently sized for such a small piece. So I would have to get more capacitors in series and then make sure they are well isolated so they don't touch this. Yeah, that should work. It's gonna be fiddly. It will mean I will probably waste some film that I don't have yet. I'll probably go tomorrow and buy a pack from a local store. But that's the only way. I hope it works from the first attempt. That would be awesome. And I would probably need to have a test image or something. I mean, something that I can compare the not a test image, a benchmark image, so that I can test the test image, or I can compare the test image to. I could probably use the white one, right? The white SX-70, which apparently exposes correctly as far as I can tell. I already shot 7 out of the 8 frames available, and I did miss one, meaning it's a bit underexposed, but there's a fair amount of sky in the image, so I can blame it on that. Anyhow, long story short, let's get cracking. Also, tomorrow I should be receiving that insulating tape. How is it called? Let me see. It's called Captain. Captain tape. So it's this thing that I'm going to use to isolate the ends of the capacitor, and probably this after I finish soldering. We'll see. All right. I'm going to measure a couple of these little guys. Just out of curiosity, I want to see what kind of variation they have. This is 102. Okay. I guess it's a bit better. $100. So basically, I'd say 97 to 100 and something. All right. So I'm going to use this one, and I will mark it down on the bag. 100 picofarads. And probably I will get some little things like this and group them on categories so I can see them easier. Although I don't expect I'll be using them anytime soon after I'm done with this batch of Polaroids. But since I bought them, why not? It's good to have them. And again, please don't judge my soldering skills. Because this is all I can do for the time being. Right. Another issue with getting the value wrong is that for each replacement you kind of need to unsolder these three little guys, and I don't think they can take it for many bends, so they look a bit fiddly. Now, if I would have to add another one parallel, I would theoretically be able to actually add it on top. So the one underneath will remain there, and I'll just add another one on the same two soldering points. And hopefully, if the exposure is incorrect, that would be the next favorable option. Okay, I'll just leave those two screws, and if it's all okay, then I can add the rest. And now for this, oh, and I will also remove these two rivets in case I ever go the I-type route, which I might, but I'll need to see exactly what that implies. And I might, because this film is bloody expensive. So SX-70 is the most expensive one, then is the 600, and then is the I-type. The difference is quite significant. I mean, if the SX-70 is something like $25, something like that, to 20 something euros normally. The I-type is 15 and the 600 is like 18 or something like that. But the biggest problem is not necessarily the price, that also, but the fact that SX-70, especially SX-70, but also the 600 type, is almost always out of stock, while I-type is almost always on stock. So, in stock actually. So I am really considering a conversion, an even more in-depth conversion. But I need to see how much more down the rabbit hole I need to go. And of all of the I-type conversions currently available as commercial product, let's say, I think the one that I like most is the one that actually screws on. So you basically screw it on top of the bottom plate. It looks pretty much the same as the camera. It allows you to use another panel of leather, and it can be very thin. It can have an lithium ion battery pack inside and whatever circuitry it needs. That seems like a good option. And I suppose I could design and 3D print something like that. Right, let's see. Well, it seems to be working. Oh, okay, I had the exposure compensation dial set to darker, so longer times. If I set it to lighter, the shutter speed changed, and if I set it to neutral, the shutter speed seems a bit long, and the pack seems a bit tired. See, 5.7. It was 6.09 when I measured it today, so it's pretty much done for. This other one just died on me. It says 585, but it doesn't have the power to push things around anymore. Came back from the dead. The idea is that this one, the one with the paint marks, has been really abused during my Polaroid interventions, and you'll see in the future what I mean. So I think it has well over 100 cycles under its belt, but well over 100. Maybe it has 50 or 60 using actual paper, and another 50, 60, 70, or maybe even more, I don't know, using nothing, so just the cartridge, just the film pack. So yeah, it lasted quite well, and it was actually running better, the camera was running better with this one than with this one. Now this pack, it's a SX-70 black and white. It's the pack that I had in the first camera, the one that broke. So it only worked for like, I don't know, 6 frames, like actual frames, and then maybe 10 more during my my playing around with the cameras, and it's almost gone. This one, I think it's also from a black and white, but I don't know where I have it from. It says impossible on both of them, but this one is obviously different because it doesn't have that sticker. So I don't know, this one was better. Anyway, alright, the camera seems to be somewhat working. I mean, optically, on a first glance it's working, but the shutter speed sound seems a bit off. It seems maybe a bit too long, given the fact that I replaced that capacitor. I'll see it when I'm going to test the camera. And I'll need to put this back. I'll clean it a bit and put it back without the leather, just to make sure I don't have any kind of light leaks, if they are even possible. If everything goes according to plan, next time I will seal the deal. So recheck all the soldering, applying that isolating tape, reapplying the leather. I think I'm going to keep the original leather for the time being, and finish the project actually. And then we can move forward to the next project, which is going to be even worse than this one, but we'll talk about that next time. Alright, I will see you again in what is apparently going to be the last episode of this series, when I'm going to have actual hard evidence of my work, unless the capacitor is of the wrong value, and then I need to go back and make the adjustments. Goodbye.